Pair of jeans with a new white tee, red and black kicks with a 23.
You better
Crank
go.
it up like hydraulic jacks, handing out
Always
contests when we
talking
start
crap, you
getting
better
out. Put your
back.
hands up, better keep them up.
While I'm
Regular
busy
pockets ain't
stacking
deep
up, you
enough.
better
In first
back.
place like Usain Bolt.
So
Them slow
haters
rappers
get
ain't
gone.
keeping
You
up.
better on. Haters carry on. Haters carry on.
Coming to you from the University of Minnesota, Rochester,
Break up one. Come on.
our town.
Put your hands up. Put your hands up.
I'm on a hustle. I'm on a grind. Everything I see, I make it mine.
A chair fair is coming up on Saturday, February 24th, and designers from around the region have submitted some remarkable chairs to help raise funds for the Boys and Girls Club of Rochester. Rose, you've submitted one of the most unique of the bunch. Can you show the viewers what we have here?
Sure, thanks Nicole. So what we decided to call our chair is the Petite Seat. It's a very tiny chair that we laser etched into the very tip of a sewing needle. To give you a sense of scale, our chair is about 350 microns wide. So a human hair is 100 microns wide. This chair is just over 3 human hairs wide.
And you can barely see that with the naked eye. I mean, it just looks like one big needle and then like a little fuzz on top.
Yeah, well, we got some great microscopic images of this, and that's we have a print of a microscopic image of the chair that'll be auctioned off along with the chair itself.
Well, you can put the needle down and the seat down. What made you get involved with this event?
Sure. So this past summer, I received an email call for artists from the Boys and Girls Club looking for artists in the area to submit chair concepts for the chair fair. And I thought it would be a great way to contribute to a great organization like the Boys and Girls Club and do that in a creative way.
Definitely. So. And how did you make it, and then what did your team look like? You worked with some other folks.
Sure. So I worked with my husband, Eric Anderson, who's an artist and writer here in Rochester, and also with Seth Nafoyam Hera, who's an engineer, your husband, who's a PhD engineer here at the Division of Mayo Clinic. And we also had some great help and support from the Division of Engineering at Mayo Clinic, allowing us to use the equipment to fabricate the chair. And we also worked with Steve Anderson, the glass blower, and Tyler King, who works in the machine shop, to create this great case to present the chair.
So quite a collaboration.
Yes.
I think that's the best thing. Do you have any hopes in terms of what this might be auctioned for?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't have a specific number in mind. I think our hope is that it can just bring in as much as possible to support the great programs at the Boys and Girls Club.
And what was the idea, the original idea for this chair? Where did it come from?
Sure. So I think if I think back, it kind of comes from my background and training in product design. So one of the techniques that we use in product design to create really neat, unique forms is we think about all of the different variables you can use to make something look unique. So you can play with scale, you can play with color, form, other aspects. And especially when I read the rules for submission for this chair, that it didn't necessarily have to be functional, I thought, well, let's really push the boundaries here, and let's see if we can make a chair that's as small as we possibly could make it.
Yeah. Were there any challenges in making the chair?
Oh yes, sure. Yeah. So we actually pulled together a group of friends and we went bowling to brainstorm how we might make the smallest chair. And Seth happened to come along and talk about how there's this equipment at the Mayo Clinic Division of Engineering called a femtosecond laser. And a femtosecond laser pulses extremely rapidly and has a very tight tolerance. It can be used for microfabrication. And so that was kind of the beginning of the idea about how we might fabricate it. But it did take us a few tries and a few evenings in the lab to figure out exactly how to specify the chair, use the different file types to import the chair into the laser equipment and to get it fabricated successfully.
And as a design person and also having an artist and an engineer in that team, I'm going to ask you a funny question. Yeah. What style of chair do you think it is? Is it like a mid-century modern chair? What kind of chair is it?
Oh, yeah. So actually, the shape and the design of the chair as a designer was very important to me. So I researched a few different chair styles, thought about some of the challenges and limitations of how we were going to go about fabricating it, and decided to go with one that kind of had a little bit of a quirky mid-century look to it. You can't see it with your naked eye, but in the microscopic images, you can see that it has some angled legs and a little bit of character to it. So that was an important aspect.
And are you going to be, oh, and you can see it right here on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's got sort of the, are those like etch marks, or can you explain what the texture on that is?
Yeah, so the texture is an artifact of how it's fabricated.
Okay.
So essentially it's the laser pulses, and we fabricate it by carving it out from a front view and then a side view.
Okay.
Just basically stepping it down and carving out the material with the laser, just one layer at a time.
So, and did you do that, was the needle there the entire time, or did you then set it on the needle?
No, it actually is the material of the needle.
Okay.
So we use the needle as our base material and then removed material to create the chair shape at that very tip.
Wonderful. And are you going to be attending the chair fair?
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Great.
very much looking forward to
Have
it.
you seen some of the other chairs that are on auction?
I have, yeah. Actually, on the Boys and Girls Club website, on their chair fair website, they have a number of the different chairs that'll be available for auction. There are some beautiful chairs out there. The woodworking that people do in this area is just incredible. So, yeah, there's quite a range.
Well, that's exciting to be amongst all those different chairs and all those artists, and I'm sure that this will go for a great benefit to the Boys and Girls Club.
We're hoping so.
Thanks a lot for joining us today, Rose.
Thank you.
Our Town is brought to you in part by the following amazing people and organizations.
Clements Chevrolet proudly partners with award-winning KSMQ Public Television. Clements Chevrolet in Rochester. Clements' clear value promise is to make buying a car fast, fair, and simple. Al Specialty Marine. Serving boaters for nearly 40 years with a commitment to really taking care of their customers.
Al Specialty Marine.
Coming up in this week's Our Town, we are talking to folks from Citizens United for Rochester Empowerment. We'll talk elections, housing, transportation, and other topics on the hot list for Rochester's future. We get good advice on how to stay warm during the remaining weeks of winter, and we learn about Knowlton's. You know Knowlton's, Rochester's largest department store, back in 1930. Coming up first, a look at the many ways visual artists express themselves in this week's Our Culture segment.
I'm Larry Ricker. I'm the president of the board of directors for SEMVA, Southeast Minnesota Visual Artists. SEMVA is an organization of artists for artists. As our name suggests, we cover a 13-county area of Southeast Minnesota. Our charter is to serve the artists and the arts in Southeast Minnesota. Artists pay a rent for putting their work on the walls. We take a 20% commission, and then the artists are required to work a certain number of hours a month, depending on how large of a space they have. So the store, the gallery, is completely staffed by artists. Nobody gets paid for work in here. It's all a volunteer organization. We have probably about 85 artists that are members of SEMVA. The gallery itself, we have about 75 artists in the gallery, so we have members that don't display here. We have a wide variety of genres. We have photography, we have paintings, oil, watercolor. We have an encaustic artist, which is all wax. We have stained glass artists, pottery, jewelry, just a wide range of work here. At the end of 2015, we couldn't afford our lease at our old building, which was over on the Peace Plaza. And so we spent about a year and a half finding another place, and we found this location at 320 South Broadway. The building itself is a lot better than what we had before, a lot more sophisticated looking. We're happy to be here. It's so much fun to work with the other artists here. You discuss ideas with each other. You kind of feed off each other. It's also nice to have a local place where I can display my work on a permanent basis. Just so many facets that make it fun to be here. We're going to try to do a lot more outreach to the communities and really become a source or support the arts and artists like our charter says that we are supposed to. So we'll be reaching out to some of the galleries in the outlying towns like Zumbrota. I can't remember all of them offhand, but there are several small galleries in the area that we'd like to try to support as well, and not just be Rochester centric. Our phone number is 281-4920. We're at 320 South Broadway, which is on the block south of the Holiday Inn downtown. Website is SEMVA.com.
For more information about this story and other Our Town features, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter at KSMQ #OurTown, or ksmq.org/OurTown.
Do not know who I am, but still know that I'm good long as you're here with me. To be drunk and in love in New York City. Midnight into morning coffee, burning through the hours talking. Damn, I like me better when...
So you may have heard of becoming a master gardener, but how about master naturalist? This certification is also offered by the University of Minnesota Extension Service, and classes are just around the corner. Spend 40 hours studying natural history, environmental interpretation, and conservation stewardship. When you're all done, you'll be well prepared to help with state projects such as prairie restoration, leading hikes, or helping with school groups. Check it out at minnesotamasternaturalist.org. It may be called Wines of the World, but the March 2nd event to benefit Bear Creek Services is all-inclusive. Enjoy more than 200 varieties of wine, craft beer, and spirits. Live music, food, and fun all benefit Bear Creek Services, an organization centered on community life experiences for individuals with developmental disabilities and brain injuries. All is inclusive. Details at bearcreekservices.org. And do you remember Tinker Toys from your childhood? The Minnesota Children's Museum of Rochester is hosting a special exhibit, Imagine It, Build It, until May 27th. 9 activity stations, lots of sticks, and those little round wheels with holes. Let your creativity run wild, though it's probably a good idea to find a kid to take along. Learn more at mcm.org. Coming up next, SocialIce reveled in the cold last week, and Danielle Teal was on hand to find out how to stay warm during the remaining weeks of winter in this week's Walkabout segment.
I'm Danielle Teal with Our Town Walkabout. I'm here with Chris from the Half Barrel. How are you feeling right now in the cold?
I'm excited. It's going to be fun. Yeah. It's not that bad out right now.
How many long johns do you have on currently?
Actually, you know what? I'm just rolling with boxers and jeans right now. I got the fur to keep me warm, so there you go. I feel like I share too much, but that's all I got.
So I see you're in a skirt.
Yes.
You are a Minnesota girl.
I am 9 degrees and I'm in a skirt.
And you're
with tights though. I do have tights on.
With tights on. Now, what do you think of this weather?
You know, actually I think it's perfect.
So the steam is coming out of our mouth right now.
I love it.
So I see you got a special drink right here. Is that hot cocoa?
Yeah.
Are you excited about SocialIce?
Yeah.
What do you think of the weather right now?
freezing.
How are you all staying warm? Are you wearing a skirt right now? I do. So you're wearing a skirt, but you're staying warm. Yeah. That's great.
Just like every other year, you know, 7-8 layers, something around those lines. Got our hand warmers kind of tucked in everywhere, but we're doing good, yeah.
How are you keeping warm?
Well, I've got this wonderful hot cocoa, mittens, this wonderful heater has made such a big difference. And just in case, I have my ear warmers. So
now, are you from Minnesota?
No, I'm from Southern Indiana.
How are you keeping warm? Because I see you're just wearing a shirt with long sleeves. Do you have a jacket somewhere, a backup plan?
I've got a jacket, but I'm not going to use it. I've got layers upon layers and toe warmers. That's all I can say.
I'm pretty cold right now, and I need to get toasty warm, so I'm going to go inside. This is Danielle Teal with Our Town Walkabout.
As we know, much is changing in Rochester, and our guests right here are raising the voices of local residents.
Our conversation with Kuehler is coming up in the Our Town Big Question segment.
Our past, remembering what made us who we are today. Brought to you by the History Center of Olmsted County.
At 5:30 p.m. on August 16, 1952, a 94-year-old retail establishment in Rochester closed its doors. Knowlton's department store began when J.D. Blake opened a general merchandise store on Broadway Avenue. Elliot Ainsworth Knowlton, Blake's brother-in-law, took over the business, and in 1897, the store became known as the Knowlton Company. After successive generations of Knowlton ownership, the company incorporated in 1945, and employees purchased shares. Knowlton's was the largest department store in Rochester during the 1930s and 40s, and was known for its spectacular window displays and hosting an annual event which included a parade and flower show featuring peonies. It also had a beauty salon and opened a post office in 1937. Dayton's department store bought the building from the Knowlton family in 1952, constructing a 6-story department store in its place. Dayton's would remain downtown until 1972, when it moved to the Apache Mall.
Really big issues in Rochester. We have, all kinds of them. Housing, transportation, jobs. There are few parts of our lives that aren't being touched by the Destination Medical Center project and Journey to Growth.
Our guests today are working to ensure all voices are heard. Welcome, Che, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
Your organization, CURE, stands for Community United Rochester Empowerment. Can you tell us a little bit about the mission of your organization?
Well, the wonderful thing about CURE is it's a grassroots organization. We're pretty much taking the needs the community is sharing with us and helping bring that voice for affordable housing, immigration issues, public transportation, living wages.
And we also focus around education and safe communities. And so the way that we were able to come up with these important issues was because we went door to door asking people what is important to them, what do you think needs to be changed here in Rochester.
And how are you able to work with Destination Medical Center? Do you have contact with them or attend meetings?
Well, we've gone to some of the DMC meetings. We were scheduled to meet with Tina Smith when she was the president of the board, but since she transitioned into taking Franken's position, right now they're still waiting on appointing some board members, but we definitely held DMC accountable. We know that they received $585 million in taxpayer money, and we're asking for them to use that part of that money for affordable housing, because we don't think it's fair for them just to use it to gentrify and create the area of downtown without taking into account the housing crisis that's happening here in Rochester.
Sure, and the housing crisis, and also there's childcare, there's transportation issues that we're all sort of talking about. One of the things that your organization has done, as you said, is go door to door. Can you talk a little bit about the diversity of the community that you're talking to, and what they're telling you about what's going on in the community?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very diverse. Rochester's very diverse, and we feel that in the decision-making process, and the people that are making decisions don't represent the diversity of Rochester. When you look at the visual of who's making those decisions and versus who it's impacting, we feel that the immigrant community is left out of this process, and the low-income community, the marginalized community, is also left out of this process because we have yet to see people of color and low-income people in those positions that are having the discussions and making the decisions about affordable housing, living wage, transportation, and the various issues that impact our community here in Rochester.
How would folks get involved? Somebody watching this right now, and maybe they agree or want to get their viewpoint across. How do they get in touch with you? Or
Absolutely. CURE is a membership. It's $5 a month. You can go onto Facebook, Rochester CURE, to come to our Facebook page. And then you can also call.
There's a phone number.
And they have a phone number, 507-405-4149, to sign up to be a part of our movement.
And I know you have an event coming up that we'll talk about in a minute, but getting back to housing for one thing, it seems as though you can't build the services and the big buildings. You're going to need people to work in those places, and those people need transportation and they need an affordable place to live.
Well, the most frustrating thing, I think, is with Raft bringing in a lot of the housing and whatnot to Rochester, local citizens aren't really part of that communication process. You have to have $250,000 just to be on the table. And if we would just raise our living wage, then maybe we wouldn't have an affordable housing problem. So there's just a lot of many different facets that link together that we need to work on.
Sure. And CURE is part of the SEIU.
That's correct.
And so, I mean, that's really important, labor unions and their role in sort of moving forward social movements and community organizing. So what is the relationship between CURE and the union here in Rochester?
Well, the relationship is that we're creating a labor community strategy. We feel that as a grassroots organization that represents, you know, the true diversity of Rochester, we can't leave out the fact of workers and unions and collective bargaining. And in this case, SEIU, here locally, we represent the healthcare workers in various clinics and in the Mayo Clinic also. And so when they talk about you know, 60% of the area median income that people need to be paying for affordable housing, if you look at someone that's working in the service department, whether it's maintenance or food service or transportation, they don't make a living wage, and they can't afford to be paying more than half of their monthly salary on rent. And so their formula is flawed, because here in Rochester, the area median income is about $60,000. And so if you ask yourself who's making $60,000, it basically eliminates a lot of the people that are living in poverty to be able to afford housing at their cost.
What about city government, the city council? Have you been successful at reaching out to anybody there, and have they opened doors, or is there a way to work with the city council on some of the issues that are important to you?
I haven't been to any of the city council members, but some members of CURE have been to the city council.
Well, we've been working with Michael Wojcik and Bilderback and Campion. We were able to develop this community advisory board that gives recommendations to the city council, and the city council also bought into this board that the Rochester Area Foundation, this alliance that they developed. They agreed to be part of this alliance and put in the $250,000 to have a seat at the table. But there's still a lot more to go. $250,000 is a drop in the bucket to what really needs to be given for affordable housing. And the good thing about it is that they're looking at affordable housing as an infrastructural need. And so that's one of the things that we need to also keep pushing, is that the city of Rochester, the county, DMC, Mayo Clinic, being the largest employer and the wealthiest corporation here in Rochester, needs to put more funds into affordable housing.
And this year, as every year, but this year is an election, a really important election year. I know you're doing some great voter registration outreach. Can you talk a little bit about what that's looking like and how people can get involved in terms of finding out more information about how to vote and get registered?
Absolutely. Our goal is to get 1,000 new registered voters this year. The form for registering is really simple. You just answer 7 questions and then sign your name and you're registered to vote. Again, if you just contact us right at CARE, we can help you register to vote. And it's just important because that is your voice. If you don't want to be part of an organization and speak vocally about things, at least with that vote, you have a voice for those representatives being accountable to those issues that are important to you.
And you're also doing some work on the state with state candidates.
Absolutely.
Talk about that, what you have coming up.
Well, yeah, on Thursday, February 22nd, we're organizing a governor candidate forum, and everyone's invited. We want to have people meet the candidates running for governor, and we're going to be asking them questions in reference to immigration, housing, living wages, the environment, and we're also going to be asking questions from the community's concerns. We have an online survey right now that you can get on our Facebook page, and we just want to see what their position is as governors, because the people need to know what their stand is on these different issues.
Well, Che and Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the work you're doing in the community, and we'll be watching the progress.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And from the University of Minnesota Rochester, that's it for now.
See you next week.